Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking the deeply heartbreaking origins of a beloved crewmate who, believe it or not, started his life being rejected by absolutely everyone. I mean, if you look at the Straw Hat Pirates today, we just see this amazing family that celebrates each other's quirks, right? But the journey to get there, well, it wasn't easy for any of them. We're looking at a character who proves that the harsh realities you're forced to collide with don't actually define who you are. We're talking about the one and only Tony Chopper. Okay, so let's set the stage here. We're traveling way back to the freezing, snowy kingdom of Drum. This is where a young reindeer was born into total, crushing isolation. And why? Literally just because of a minor genetic mutation, a blue nose. His herd treated him as a complete outcast from day one, forcing him to just kind of follow along from far away just to avoid association. He was a reindeer that nobody wanted, a herd animal forced to live completely on his own. And this perfectly captures the core of his tragedy. See, one day, Chopper accidentally ate the Hito Hito Nami, the human fruit. Now, you'd think this might help him, right? But instead of gaining acceptance, he just gained a whole new category of rejection. He became too human to belong with his reindeer herd. They actually kicked him out entirely. But his new bipedal hybrid appearance absolutely terrified humans. When he tried to just walk into a village, the humans took one look at him, assumed he was some kind of wild yeti, and literally opened fire. They decided he was way too monstrous to live among them. So think about this for a second. The crucial takeaway here is that this fruit didn't give him a home. What it actually gave him was human intelligence. It gave him the mental capacity to fully, deeply understand his own painful rejection. He wasn't just an animal acting on survival instinct anymore. He was a highly self-aware being who realized he was too human for the forest and way too much of an animal for the towns. He was completely alone in the world. But you know what's absolutely wild about Chopper? It's how he eventually took the very powers that made him an outcast and pushed them way beyond their natural limits. Standard Zoan fruits usually just give you 3 forms. But Chopper later expanded his fruit's natural abilities by developing a drug called rumble balls. This essentially hacked the wavelengths of his devil fruit, unlocking a massive arsenal of distinct forms, 7 naturally, plus the devastatingly powerful monster point. He turned the exact thing that made him a monster into an incredible tool to protect the people he eventually learned to love. Let's move on to part 1, Dr. Hiriluk's unexpected warmth. So there he is, bleeding out, totally hopeless, and fleeing from the humans who just shot him, when Chopper is finally saved by the eccentric man on the left, Dr. Hiriluk. It's really fascinating to look at the 2 very different doctors who shaped his life, starting with Hiriluk. Look, by all conventional metrics, this guy was an objectively terrible physician, a notorious quack whose cures usually made his patients significantly worse. But he had a massive heart. He took this injured creature in, gave him the name Tony Chopper, and cemented this beautiful father-son bond that taught Chopper that absolutely every single life has value. Hiriluk instilled this incredibly powerful, stubborn philosophy in Chopper, the idea that absolutely no illness in the world is impossible to beat. This whole belief came from Hiriluk's own past, where a supposedly fatal illness he suffered from was miraculously cured just by witnessing the overwhelming beauty of a grove of cherry blossom trees in the West Blue. It's like a fairy tale, right? Hiriluk was on a quest to recreate that exact miracle, aiming to cure the frozen hearts of the citizens of Drum Island, who were being brutally oppressed by their tyrant king Wapol. And central to all of this was Hiriluk's unwavering, deep faith in the pirate flag. See, Hiriluk worshipped the skull and crossbones not as some symbol of terror or death, but as a symbol of life, resilience, and fighting back against impossible odds. It was such a beautiful, romantic sentiment to share with his adopted son. But tragically, it would soon lead to a completely devastating misunderstanding. Which brings us to part 2, the deadly miracle cure. All right, so as time goes on, Hiriluk realizes his own terminal illness has come back with a vengeance. Knowing he was dying, he actually forcefully pushed Chopper away to spare him the pain of watching him go. But Chopper figured out the truth. Desperate to save his mentor, he dug through a medical book, spotted the rare amudake mushroom, and set out on this brutal, incredibly dangerous journey to harvest it from some treacherous cliffs in a secluded part of the island. And guys, this is where the heartbreak truly hits. Because of Hiriluk's romantic teachings about the Jolly Roger being this ultimate symbol of hope and defying the odds, Chopper completely misinterpreted the medical text. He saw the universal medical warning for poison, the skull and crossbones, and genuinely, innocently believed it was a sign of a miracle cure. I mean, Chopper literally went through hell for this mushroom. He was battered, heavily bruised, and even had his left antler snapped off at the base after being forced to fight the leader of his old reindeer herd just to cross their territory. When he finally came back and presented this mushroom soup to Hiriluk, the doctor was just moved to tears by the pure, unwavering love of his son. Fully aware that the mushroom was a lethal poison that was going to kill him, Hiriluk happily drank it anyway, just to validate Chopper's incredible sacrifice. Now for part 3, when does a man die? The final stand. Knowing his clock was ticking down fast because of the poison, Hiriluk marched right into a trap set by King Wapol at Drum Castle. Wapol had broadcasted this massive lie, claiming that the Ishi-20, which were the only sanctioned doctors left on the whole island, had fallen gravely ill. Wapol knew Hiriluk's conscience wouldn't allow him to just let the island's medical staff die. So Hiriluk arrives, fully intending to cure them, only to be laughed at by Wapol. But rather than anger, Hiriluk just felt this profound relief. He was genuinely glad that the country's medical staff was actually safe. Staring down the barrels of Wapol's firing squad, Dr. Hiriluk delivers what is, hands down, one of the most powerful and unforgettable speeches in this entire story. He asks the crowd, "When do you think people die?" And his answer is just profound. A person truly dies only when they are forgotten. As long as his memory and his dream lived on in Chopper, Hiriluk knew he would never really die. And to make absolutely sure Chopper would never, ever carry the heavy guilt of knowing the mushroom soup killed him, Hiriluk took his own life on his own terms. He detonated a failed explosive potion, going out with a massive smile on his face. This selfless act deeply moved the Royal Guard Dalton, and honestly, it left an indelible mark on everyone watching. Finally, part 4, joining the Straw Hat Pirates, a new beginning. Tragically, Chopper had arrived at the castle just a few moments too late. Utterly destroyed by the loss of his father figure, he took Hiriluk's spirit, grabbed his Jolly Roger flag, and channeled all of that raw grief into a tearful plea to Hiriluk's colleague, Dr. Kureha. He begged her to teach him real medicine so he could become a doctor who could cure anything. And over the next 6 years, Chopper's transformation was astonishing. He basically combined Hiriluk's boundless empathy with Kureha's ruthless, highly skilled medical mastery. He threw himself into rigorous study, learning about complex medicines and even utilizing his own research to invent the rumble walls. He became an absolutely extraordinary, highly capable doctor. And that brings us to the present timeline. Monkey D. Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates crash onto Drum Island seeking a doctor. When Luffy meets Chopper, he doesn't see a monster. He doesn't care at all about the blue nose or the strange hybrid body. He just sees a capable, worthy, and incredibly cool friend. Luffy relentlessly invites Chopper to join his pirate crew, finally giving Chopper the pure acceptance he'd craved his entire life. Chopper finally gets what he's always wanted, a found family where his differences aren't just accepted, they are fully celebrated. As they set sail, leaving behind the snowy island where he was once despised by literally everyone, Dr. Kureha unleashes Hiriluk's final life's work. The night sky fills with this brilliant pink, cherry blossom-colored snow, Hiriluk's final gift, officially curing the frozen heart of Drum Island once and for all. It is a stunning visual to cap off a heartbreaking but ultimately beautiful origin. So as we wrap up this explainer on the incredible, enduring legacy of Tony Chopper, I want to leave you with a thought to reflect on. Chopper proved that kindness is true strength, rising from being the world's so-called monster to becoming one of its greatest doctors. Next time, we'll uncover the tragic past of the only child the entire world feared, Nico Robin. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.